Hey y'all, it's Shayna and I'm back. And I just wanted to sound off real quick about the latest episode of Tyler Perry's Sistas. So, long story short, if you haven't been watching, Karen, or you used to watch, or whatever. It's been the same storyline for some time, but Karen actually went into labor with her twins. And we know that they were showing that the mistreatment of Black women specifically when we get into these spaces and we get into these hospitals. Karen was going into labor. The city had a blackout, so everybody lost service. Fatima was with her. She took her. Karen had a fever. She said she wasn't feeling well. Fatima was like, something is not right. This is not normal, labor symptoms. She's pregnant as well. So she's done her research and she's like, this is abnormal labor symptoms. Everybody finally got to the hospital. Karen's mother was there and she was like, I didn't go through any of this when I went into labor. They're expressing to the doctor, she's not well. We need help. Sorry, it's hot, y'all. I gotta turn on my hair. But they're expressing her concerns. And some people still think that Black people sorry y'all, I'm overcoming the summer cold, but they think Black people and Black women can't feel pain, and so when you go through things, it's normal. So a lot of people, they don't always care about our well-being, and sometimes it's not other people, sometimes it's us. Sometimes our people are our own worst enemies. Sometimes skin folk ain't always kinfolk, okay? Trust and believe. And why this is so triggering, if you've been with me for a while, if you're new here, I won't go into too much detail, but I've had an experience myself with my first child, who I gave birth to, who was alive. I went into early labor, and the child passed away at birth. But I was, having bleeding. I was supposed to be on bed rest until we could get to a safe milestone in my pregnancy to deliver. So I was supposed to be laying there resting and holding off until I delivered. But when I was alone, and that's how they often get you, they try to get you by yourself. No one was, I didn't feel like I really had a lot of support at that time with that pregnancy from family or, the father or anything. So I was there in the hospital a lot by myself. But when I was alone, I expressed I had to use the bathroom. I was supposed to be using the bedpan. Someone came and jammed a catheter in me, and which caused me to go into labor and give birth. And I was 21 weeks. So they said the child is too small. They won't try to save him, even though he was alive. So, I basically had to hold my child until he passed on. And it was a very traumatic experience. I was very in my early 20s. So there's a lot to process. No one was there. I didn't know what was happening. It was very overwhelming. So I always, this is a near and dear subject to me. The mistreatment of things we go through. I really should have sued, but it was so traumatizing. I just wasn't even in the right frame of mind to even think about doing that at that time. And then I have my son who's 13 now in the same hospital. And I went in early labor. I had to stay on bed rest with him for months before I delivered. And I had my daughter in that same, and so 3 different pregnancies, 3 different experiences. The last pregnancy, was fine. I'm always going to be considered high risk, but I didn't have any of those hiccups, even though the doctor I had at the time, he did not care about my care, my well-being. But my son, my rainbow baby, my doctor, he was great. He was an older Black gentleman. I went to a different hospital. But when he was saying, he might come early, they said at that hospital, they just didn't have the technology and things, the care that I would need. They didn't have it at that hospital. So I would have to go back to the original hospital, which is like the main hospital, and do my bed rest there. But if it wasn't for that doctor advocating for me, I may not have gotten to my son to where he is, because when I was pregnant with him, I got an ultrasound. And the person who's doing the ultrasound came in and said, oh, he may not make it. You can start planning your next pregnancy. And this is a year after I had lost my first child. So very, very traumatic. It's like they just don't care. It's just another day for them. Some of them, they just treat it like work. It's just another day on the job for them. No big deal. And this doctor on Sisters, he just refused to listen. I'm glad that Some of the girls went out and reached out and said, we need a second opinion. Somebody needs to come look at Karen because she is not well. She's bleeding. Something isn't right. Come to find out, one of the children was stillborn. So she has a baby who's deceased now inside of her that's affecting her and her other twin, her other child that she's still pregnant with. And the other doctor was telling him, like, you need to do something or that can affect the other child and the mother. They may not make it. And the doctor's like, I think she's fine. I think she can take it. She can give birth to two and all this stuff. And it's just like, Sabrina, fortunately, overheard the conversation, and they really pulled him, because the other doctor, he was a black gentleman. He was a resident, still new, still learning. And the doctor, he ended up getting rid of the doctor. You know, Karen was traumatized, so she felt like she lost the baby. Of course she's gonna feel like, okay, it's my fault. You know, you have those thoughts, even though it's not. She got to the hospital, they didn't do anything. Had she expressed concerns, and if only they had checked on her sooner, that may have saved her other baby, which is very well may be true. I mean, from the time they went to check in, the lady was sitting at the front desk, didn't want to do anything. We had a black nurse who tried to, you know, help get us in a room, thank goodness. And so when they got the doctor and they made the switch to the doctor who actually cared and was concerned about her, then the original doctor told him, like, oh, you know, you won't see the end of this. Like, basically he has it out for him. And it was just, I'm grateful that Tyler Perry showed the real and what really goes on, and things that we complain about. It's one thing to hear about it, it's another thing to see it. But my, it was, you know, hard for some of us to watch. It's so triggering because it's real. It's real. We need to see it. It's real life. This really does happen. Our complaints, our gripes, our fears are not always heard. Something must be done. And so I do, you know, Tyler Perry doesn't always have the best writing and this and that and the other, but I do appreciate that he tries to show the real. From the doctor coming in saying, oh, you got two baby daddies, two different fathers. None of that has nothing to do with what's going on here. You need to be concerning yourself with her care. And I was just, I was frustrated. So now we don't know which twin, like who the twin belongs to. I think probably a lot of you, if you watch the show, think that twin that made it probably belongs to Aaron. I doubt that that's the one that belongs to Zach. Zach broke down crying. Fatima really did her big one, like even making sure she got there. And I think they'll have a special bond. What I think is, or my early predictions would be, is it's Aaron's baby. We see Zach previews for this upcoming episode. Him and Zach are gonna go in, so she can, when she goes to deliver, I think she's gonna get an emergency C-section. Shout out to the C-section mamas. That in itself is just a lot. I can only imagine. I haven't experienced that. But they go in there when she's going to deliver. So I think they're gonna have a bond. And because Fatima helped her when no one else was there, you know, I think they may make Zach and Fatima the baby's godparents. So that way they can all have a connection and be there to help raise that child. And then I'm glad that in the episode, Danny mentioned, where's little Michael? Because it's like, we done forgot all about him. Where is he at? But this is just a lot going on. We got to hear, you know, we got to hear from different characters that we haven't really been seeing. There's just, it's been a lot going on. And I was just getting so tired of the Gary storyline. So I was glad that we got back to like the real, like realistic situations. And even with her being pregnant with twins at the same time, that actually does really happen in real life. Rare, but it happens. So it was good to see all possibilities. And I was just, you know, it was a hard watch, but I couldn't turn away either. I had to see it through. And, you know, I just want to come share some of my experiences and my testimony. And hopefully, you know, somebody else who can relate, or maybe this might help somebody else. And if you're going through that and you want to have children, your time is coming. You know, I'm very hopeful that you will be able to experience that. You know, it's not easy. It's not this journey of being a woman is not easy. Our body goes through so much. Our body goes through a lot. So, but, you know, I'm hoping that you know, it wasn't such a hard watch for you. Let me know if you watched it, what your thoughts are in the comment section, how you felt about the episode overall, because that's really what the episode was ultimately about, was making sure Karen got her care, and we're just going to find out what happens next. And if you're trying to conceive, or your journeys, or if you struggled, or, you know, whatever you've gone through, because there was a time where I didn't think that I would have any children, or I couldn't even be around babies. It was too much for me. So I mean, I'm blessed to have 2 now. And then you have them, and then you're like, okay, now I'm dealing with motherhood and postpartum and things of that nature. It just never ending. But the joy of bringing life into the world and what our bodies can do is tremendous. And I'm glad that Tyler Perry is shedding light on things that can happen to us, especially when you're in. Thank goodness they were there. They were trying to usher them out of the room because they wanted to get her alone. And I feel like if you can help it, don't be in that hospital room by yourself. Try to have somebody with you if you can. And if you can't, reach out to me. I will sit on the phone with you. I'm serious. Because it's not, I understand. Completely understand. But y'all let me know what y'all think about the episode. And I'll be back for more later. Bye.